Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing? How is January treating you? I hope well. I have loved the last 2 weekends being with you in the Word of the Year workshops, and we had so much fun the first time that we did it again last Saturday, and it was just such a fun, beautiful time to hold space and work on this intention setting. Sometimes it's so hard to find space to do even the things that are very, very important to us. And so I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to continue the work on my mind map to really center and cement my word of the year as legacy. It's just been fun to also take the time that I'm needing to move into this practice, to move into this year, to move into a new cycle, a new chapter of my life. It's just reminding me how important this pattern interrupt is. And if you've been a part of one or two of those, then you know how expansive that space was. But it's also reminding me of how expansive the space provided in these solo retreats here at the house are. And I really invite you. There are a few dates left. I think there's a January date left, but there's some February weekends available where you can come and just be. You can breathe, you can recalibrate, you can have time and space to listen to your inner wisdom, to articulate what it is you want, how you want to feel in the year ahead, in the next chapter, whether you're beginning something or ending something or just need a breather. This is such a beautiful, sacred space and time to do that. These solo retreats are all inclusive. You just need to get yourself to Logan International Airport, and my fabulous private driver will whisk you to the Phineas Wright House, and every detail will be attended to. All of your food, all of your beverage, all of the time and space that you need, the journal prompts, the conversation partner, the giant piece of butcher paper and colored pencils for you to map out what this year, what this next iteration of your highest and best looks like and feels like. And we can take walks in the snow on my fabulous expanded property that was a part of my fun vision board last year. Many years in the making, but it moved off the vision board and onto the lived experience board last year. It's just so fun to be in a space that is safe to dream. And I love that I can hold that space for you. So the link is down in the show notes if that sounds fun to you. If those dates don't work, if you wish that was available during the week, instead of just the weekends, please reach out and let's see if we can make something happen for you that is exactly what you need. Today's conversation, I believe, will be also exactly what you need. We have the very fun Rachel Gitlevich today. She wrote a very fresh and sassy book called What in the Actual F? Life's a Hot Mess and How to Find Gratitude Anyway. And she says about the book, as cliche as it sounds, but what if the moment your life fell apart was the moment it truly began? This book is a raw and inspiring memoir of healing, motherhood, resilience, and self-discovery. Rachel shares her powerful true story of surviving intense medical diagnosis, navigating single motherhood, and ultimately reclaiming her body, her voice, and trust in the purpose of it all. Through trauma, transformation, and tender joy, she explores what it means to come home to yourself after life breaks you open. With poetic prose and soul-deep honesty, What in the Actual F? Offers a voice of compassion and strength for individuals on their own healing journeys. And I am delighted to share this conversation with Rachel Gitlevich. Beautiful Rachel. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I cannot wait to dive into all the goodness that surrounds your everyday. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. Appreciate it.
It's so fun to make friends this way. And I love that I get to start the conversation by asking, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Mm, I love this question so much. And I love that that's, the premise of your show. I would say I'm saying yes by, taking myself on trips.
Yay.
I'm will be in Mexico probably when this airs. So celebrating my birthday out there. I kind of get out of here for the winter. Me and my family go traveling. Our little snowbirds that don't want to be in Chicago for the winter time. So we go to Mexico. And I'm saying yes to more outdoor time with myself and with my son, and just, being present with
Mm.
whatever is here.
That's such a beautiful answer. And it's so presence, there's so much poignancy there,
Mm,
right? Because we get into these routines, especially, well, I don't want to say especially with kids, but when there are other people's schedules that are intersecting with
mhm.
ours, a lot of routine can come as a result of managing that effectively. And for me, routine is very familiar and it feels safe. And it very quickly becomes a habit. And habits don't require a lot of thought or presence. And so sometimes they can last a lot longer than they are in service to us. And it's so beautiful to intentionally practice presence because it makes the day just full of surprise and delight and curiosity and discovery. Is that what you're finding?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we can get so caught up in the routine and the day to day of, like, wake up, get ready, take my kid to daycare, get ready for work. And then when we just stop and take a moment to, like, okay, let me just center, let me breathe for a moment, let me take this moment to actually recognize, like, the beauty in this moment and what is, like, the fact that the gratitude, right? Kind of not alluding to my book, but my book.
No, please. That's what we're here for.
But it's really about taking those little micro moments in our day to just, like, reflect and be grateful and just say, okay, wow, like, I get to talk to Wendy across from my screen right now and, like, doesn't matter where we are right now, but we get to have this conversation and we get to connect in this way, like we are actually like, sitting in a coffee shop like old friends. And so I just
Exactly.
love being able to like pull these little moments of reflection and like these little glimmers of the day that don't make it so routine and monotonous, same thing day in, day out.
Right. And these new habits, they take intention and they take practice, right? It's always awkward until it's elegant. But what I find is that it actually multiplies my time. It doesn't subtract from
Sure.
what I need to be done. I get more things done. I do them well. They have more efficacy. There's connection there. There's perspective
Hmm.
there. And it doesn't take longer. It just takes a new practice.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree.
Have you always been a person that is practicing presence and gratitude, or what is the arc of this story?
Sure. Thanks for asking. And I mean, I would say quickly no, right? I think it's been, as you mentioned, an arc of a journey, or at least like an arc that's continuously going, right? But I think more so in recent years, I've just been able to be more present, more have more gratitude. I think like not in spite of, but because of
Mm.
the journey, right? The challenges, the intensities, the good, the bad, and everything in between, you're able to just kind of sit in, say, a storm and recognize I'm in a storm right now. And, I know this storm will pass, and maybe this storm is not exactly what I want it to be, but there is always like sun that comes after the storm, and the sun will always shine again. And we just kind of have to keep returning back to that light over and over and over again.
How has that practice played out for you? You have your company name is beautiful, Ray of Consciousness. You've written this fabulous book, which I'm obsessed with the title
Thank you.
because I just feel like, especially with this podcast and the arc of my trajectory, I didn't realize how much censoring was happening
Mm,
in the way that I spoke, the way that I perceived things, and the expectations that were created of others based on, I don't know, like just conditioning from my childhood. And I'm saying all this, listener, because I said it in the intro. There's an F word in the title of her book, which I think is so amazing. And I'm only recently started actually saying the word and not just saying F word. So,
okay. Yeah.
so
So we
you're
can
totally allowed to say it.
I can
Yes,
say it,
absolutely.
right?
You
Okay.
can, because I am not available to be censored any longer, and I'm not here to censor anybody else. If you were going to say something really mean about a person, then I would say this is really not the place for that. But if you're going to say this story that I'm telling myself is completely fucked up, then yes, you get to say that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of just this like how much we try to censor ourselves or hold back. And I feel like also as women, we are told that we have to a lot, not that we're told, but I think a lot of times we just tend to shrink ourselves to fit some sort of mold.
I think we were told when we were little,
Hmm.
and then nobody ever had to tell us again because we just kept telling ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to fit in this box, and in the process you censor yourself, you cut off parts of yourself. You don't fully express yourself for fear of being seen or heard or rejected, whatever that might be. And so this book is really about like a reclamation of just all of you, right? And like this what I'd call like a coming home to the self, right? To like actually feel safe Because I think so many times when challenges come up or trauma happens, anxiety, depression, mental health, whatever you want to call it, or chronic illness, like I talk about in my book, we tend to disassociate. We get into fight or flight. And those, like, that is a response in our brain that a lot of times helps us from harm. And so, in, say, like, getting a scary medical diagnosis, fight or flight might make sense, right? You want to then fight, right? So, like, or freeze. And sometimes that works too. But
Right. And isn't there also fawn?
fun, yes, yes.
Right. So can you talk about how that plays out in it as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say like what I am most familiar with is like the fight, flight, freeze. Fawn, not so
It's
familiar.
the pleasing,
These That's true. Yes.
right? So
Right.
it's we're
Right.
going to fight,
Mhm.
we're going to flight, we're going to leave, we're going to freeze, or we're going to fawn, which perfectionism is a trauma response. People pleasing is a trauma response. And I think that it's so prevalent that we separate that that's actually in the list of the fight or flight, that because that's for big T trauma, or that's for things that happen to other people, or I'm fine, so it can't be a thing on that list,
Mhm.
and we're gaslighting ourselves in the process.
Yeah. Ugh, it's horrible, right? Like, sometimes you sit back and think about like the things that we tell ourselves or like whatever's happening in our mind and those thoughts that come up. It's like, would you be friends with you?
Right.
Right? Like, we are a lot of times, and like, I think it's always a work in progress to like tell ourselves that we are enough, that we are exactly in the space that we're supposed to be. Yeah, that you're so worthy of the life that you want. You're so worthy, and like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Like, it's like always these like little things that like, I, I don't know where they come from, right? But
No,
it's like,
well-meaning people, I'm sure,
right, right.
doing the best they could with the tools that they had.
Hmm.
And even as you're saying that, yes, you are enough. Yes, you are enough, Rachel. I am enough. Listener, you are enough. All the people are enough. That's actually the baseline. That's not the top of the mountain. So, getting to this place of worthiness, of deservability, of happiness is my not only my birthright, it is my inheritance. It is who I am supposed to be. More is the mantra of the universe. Like all the things, this yes that we're saying to ourselves, that we're encouraging those around us to say to themselves, to have their own yes, that is the first step up this beautiful, glorious staircase, or the
Yes.
first floor in the elevator if your knees hurt. Like it's fine, whatever, however you're going to get there. But this declaration of I am enough, that is not the end of the line. That is just, that's where you started when you got here. And
Hmm.
then you've been digging this hole for however long, or it's been dug for you, or whatever.
Mm.
But we're moving even beyond that. So yes, let's acknowledge we are enough. We are worthy of all of the desires in our hearts. In fact, the reason they're there is because they are for us. If these dreams are in you, these dreams are for you, God is not mean. He's not just giving you good ideas when you come do a solo retreat farm stay at my bed and breakfast, or come with me to France and we have all these fabulous ideas while we're having drinks at Les Maurice. Like those, it's not a trick. These are actually an unlocking, a peeking in to what is meant for you.
Yeah.
So let's like cut off these sandbags and let this hot air balloon get higher, because that's where we're going.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, like let those wings out. Let's fly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I completely, completely agree with you.
So, what motivated the book?
Mm, I love this.
And tell us everything. Tell us the title, tell us the motivation, tell us this is your your I wrote a book infomercial.
Absolutely. So the name of the book is What in the Actual Fuck? Life's a Hot Mess, How to Find Gratitude Anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Thank you. And so I knew, I think for a while, I think a lot of us sit on a book idea. And I think for maybe the past 4 or 5 years or so, I wanted to write. And I think at one point I sat down, I maybe wrote an intro, or I wrote a couple pages, and then I just kind of like a lot of ideas that you mentioned, the idea just dwindles away, maybe find somebody else or whatever it might be. Life happens, no right or wrong here. And then the ping happened again. And so at this point, I want to say 2 years ago, or maybe a year. I think the book total took me about a year and a half to write. And I would say that I was originally motivated just as like a way to essentially like therapize myself, like
Mhm.
not identify with whatever happened to me and like claim this as my identity, but give it its own entity, right? Give it its own space to be and like be free. Like I
Mm.
didn't want to carry the burden or whatever it was. I was just like, you get to be a book baby and now you get to grow. And that was essentially like the motivation was really to I wrote it for myself, but I obviously also wrote it for the readers as well to recognize that, whatever has happened to us isn't what defines us.
Right.
And that's kind of, I think, the biggest message that, like, hey, like, this life is so beautiful to be lived that we can't sit and, like, we can throw ourselves a pity party. We can, like, sit in the storm. And I think it's really powerful to process and not just, like brush everything that happens under the rug. I think it's important to be with it and grieve it and actually unpack it, but don't let it define us, I think.
How do we do that? What is the, and I know everyone has the answers inside of them,
Mhm.
but what was your practice, I guess, or what do you help people do and hope that the book will help them do in not the appropriate, what is the appropriate amount of time to grieve? It's the appropriate amount of attention
Mm,
to give the thing, whatever it is. It's never one thing, it's a series of things, right? And and I guess the reason that I'm asking is I'm realizing that although this episode is going to air in January, we're recording several months before that. And this is actually the first podcast interview that I've done since my divorce is final.
mm,
And that was a three, thank you, congratulations. Yes, that's the right answer,
mm,
or response.
mm,
Um, it was a 3.5 year process.
mm,
It was long. And I was, living the life I had until I got the one I wanted, which has been my practice my entire life with all the things that I've waited for that seem to take longer than they should. But I also know that's of my own creating. So that's a whole nother show. But I'm saying this because I believe that for me, and I don't know what your quote unquote thing is that made you write the book or helped you motivate you to write the book. However, for me, I want to say what happened and what my experience was of my marriage for several reasons. One, because I think when we talk about these things, they lose the power
yeah.
that we think they have, and we reclaim our power. And you use the word reclamation, which is like my favorite word right now. And I want to not normalize the experience, but normalize the life after the experience,
Hmm.
which is my choice. And I also believed for those 3.5 years that I was not allowed, or it would not be in my best interest to speak freely, because I believed that something that was important to me would be taken away if I spoke my truth. And now I can say whatever the fuck I want. And I already have a microphone and I already have a platform. And in this moment, I'm realizing that I have been saying everything I wanted to say, and I have been living everything I wanted to live. And although I have more dreams and bigger dreams and fabulous dreams that I don't even know about yet, I did not put myself on hold while I was waiting for this, the next iteration of a permission slip. So what I my big long way to a question in that is, for you, how did you know that, or how was this, like you said, using this book writing process as your therapy? What did it look like for you to move through these things in real time, essentially, as you were letting people into your own therapy appointment?
Right. Oh my gosh. That's such a big and important question.
It was a big question. Sorry. That was a lot of
No,
words.
I mean, I was so engaged with like the entire like all of it, everything that you just mentioned is so like I want to like double click on all of it
It
because
was so cute.
because right, like as you mentioned, there's no timeline, there's no this is like grieve for 5 minutes today, tomorrow, and the rest of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and like for every single person, it's different. And also, like, where do you find the time, right?
Right.
Because, I'm a single mom. I
Same.
work, I'm an entrepreneur.
Same.
So it's like, where do you find this time to, and it's like I think even these emotions, right, that we may consider like not so positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't always want to feel them. So it's like how do you find the time and space? Because that's also a saying yes to yourself moment,
Yes.
right? And so, yes, like I've worked with a couple of different therapists as well. So I think there's always like a time and place for there's therapy, there's healers, you have to find what works for you and what feels best for you. Cause yes, I
Right.
did see the energy healers to help. Like, I was just like, let me open up like the
Right.
box to whatever, like
Exactly.
everything and anything. And so, yeah, I think for me, I had to really sit with, and what I talk about in the book is like your intuition and like trusting and like how to tune into your intuition and like what does your body need? What does Rachel need? What does Wendy need? What is our body asking for? What is our spirit asking for in this
Right. Alignment.
alignment? Right.
Alignment,
Exactly.
right? And I love that answer. Thank you. Because of course it's different for everybody, but we think, I don't want to speak for everybody. I used to think, oh, well, this person's like the 3 steps to getting your life back, or here's 3 steps to scaling your business to make $1 million, and you didn't even have an idea yesterday. It's like so silly, but I think we are conditioned and desirous of a roadmap.
Mm,
And this, I almost said idea, but actually, this knowing, this understanding, this reclamation of truth that we are the roadmap,
mm,
and we are also evolving and changing and expanding all the time. And which means that the roadmap is changing. And that is okay. And that is why alignment is the dominant intention. That is the desire, because that's when you know I'm going the right direction for this moment, which then brings us back to practicing presence, because We have to be paying attention to know if this is going to work. We can't say, well, this is the only route that I take for school drop off. If there's an accident, there's a better way, and we plug it into our navigation and we go a different route that we didn't even know about. And we trust it because obviously it's called a smartphone for a reason, right? Like, but sometimes it's easier to believe that with the simplicity and the efficacy of the Waze app, but not necessarily trust that I know what's best for me in this moment. And I knew what was best for me yesterday, and I did that. And if what feels best for me today is different, that I can trust that.
Right. Well, I also wanted to mention it's so funny
Please.
that we're talking about like the maps and the directions and the road maps, right? Like, I mean, I grew up in a time of MapQuest, right?
Right.
Like, I remember having to like print out the 5 pages of directions in order to like go to your friend Jory's house or something, you know?
Right.
And it's just so funny too, because we talk about like we want those road maps, but then what happens if you made a wrong turn on MapQuest, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of had to like figure out your way to get to, either backtrack or like, figure out a different way. But, obviously with our phones these days, it reroutes. And I think
Right.
that's the same thing in our lives. Like, even if we don't follow the path that we thought we were going to take, or we didn't think that this is going to happen this way, our life reroutes itself. Our life
Yes.
finds another path. It's like I've seen this like meme or whatever graphic that like you think what you're holding on to or whatever, like God or universe has a bigger plan for you.
Totally.
You think that you have it all, like say you're like holding this, like you're holding this like little teddy bear, but then like the universe has this like giant teddy bear behind it.
Yes.
Like you don't even know what you don't know.
Right. And that can be really scary and daunting, or very delightful and lovely. I've recently actually on several trips to France because I go to similar places over and over. That's what I like because I like when I discover something, I'm like, oh, good. I get to implement that in 3 weeks because I'm going back, or in 3 months, or whenever I'm going to go back next. And specifically in 2024, when I was there, I made some beautiful discoveries that there's an opera house inside the Palace of Versailles.
Mhm.
I had no idea, which then, of course, led to a New Year's Eve trip in Versailles in Paris that included the opera. And when I got into that room, that is so glorious, as you can imagine, if you've ever seen the Palace of Versailles, just imagine that there's also a secret opera house inside there, right? Like, oh my gosh. And I just remember looking at this space on this private tour and taking it all in and being so overwhelmed with beauty. And the thought that kept coming to my mind was, oh my gosh, what else don't I know? What else? Like, oh, get me behind that door. Oh, I want to see in there. What's happening over here? Like, what else is waiting for me to surprise and delight? And when you reference, I mean, of course, like we're God girls here. And of course, the view is better the higher you go. So God knows what we want and he knows where we are in trajectory to the thing that we want. And the path of least resistance to get us there is sometimes signing up for a private tour of Versailles, or having a blister on your shoe or on your toe and you need new shoes and you find this glorious view from the shoe department of Samaritan department store. It's so beautiful the way that the universe surprises and delights us. And we tap into that. We witness it more and more when we are available
Mm,
which comes through practicing presence.
absolutely. So well said.
Well, thank you. So, what are you hoping people will come away from reading your book with? What tools, what practices, what mindset shifts?
I was gonna say, like, based on, what people have been saying, like, so far, but I kind of want to rewind it back a little bit,
Yeah.
what my original intention was of, like, what I hope people come away with. And I think it's this sense of inspiration, this knowing that, like, nothing ever comes our way that we can't handle,
Right.
essentially, even when, like, the most, like, craziest of the crazy things happen, and even when life tries to, like, knock you down. I don't even think, like, it's, like, all these little phrases that have been taught to us, right?
Hmm.
Like, life tries to knock you down. I'm like, "Well," like,
Actually,
yeah.
I love that. And please, like, course correct mid sentence. That's how the last 4 years of my 5 years of my life have been. The
Right.
first year, it took me forever to speak because I kept going, oh, wait a minute. I actually don't believe that. That's a habit. So, yes, life tries to knock us down.
Right?
What's your
But
reframe of that?
I I think there's, like, a life course corrects
Mhm.
us. Like, I mean, it can humble us, right? I think life can be very humbling, and, it can be really challenging and intense, and, like, I've cried so much over these past few years, but I've also experienced such immense joy, and what I want people to come away with is this sense of, like, gratitude, I think. Not to sound super cliche, but, like, this gratitude for life, gratitude for all that we have, and I think I want people to believe that in themselves, that they can do it, right? I think so many times I told myself I was not a writer. I would have a journaling practice. I'd fall off my journaling practice. I didn't make time for it. So sometimes people like, oh, when I wrote my book, I looked at all my old journals and then I put them all together and that's my book. Like, no, I really just like, most of it was my memory. Maybe I looked at a journal or two, but all of it was really like I voice transcribed a lot of it, and that's kind of where I think my story I'm more of a speaker, a talker, and so I think there's so many of these beliefs that, like, "I can't do this because of that. I'm not a writer. I don't know. I'm not eloquent." Like, there's just so many ways to mitigate some of those belief systems. And I think too, it's like I want people to come away with actual tangible tools and practices that they can implement in their lives. So I kind of touched on this idea of an idea, but like intuition. And how do we tune into that frequency? How do we trust our intuition? And it's not just this like one size fits all. It's not
Mhm.
like, oh, I got my intuition right this time. That means I'm set for life. Right.
Right.
Like, and so I think this constant of like listening to our intuition, see how we respond to it. Like, cause it never comes out as like your intuition never or hardly ever screams at you. It's
Mhm.
never, it's just like this, it whispers. Right? It's
Right.
like this, like, little nudge, like, "Go do this thing," or "Go do that," or "Don't," or, like, "Take the risk," or "Take that leap," even if it's scary, but, like, our intuition is never gonna be the one to be, like, kind of some of those limiting beliefs that scream at us.
Right. I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, and the text says that the ego speaks first and the
Right.
ego speaks loudest.
Yeah. Mhm.
So if the first thing you hear when someone says, oh, come with me to France for a culinary adventure, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. It's too expensive.
Right.
Guess what? Not your intuition. Your intuition is what made your heart swell when you thought, oh my gosh, I want to do that. That's dreamy and fabulous.
Exactly. That kind of similar situation happened to me a few years ago, or it was back in 2019. My yoga teacher messaged me saying, "Come on this retreat to Bali with me or with our group." And I'm like,
Yeah.
just getting started in my entrepreneurial journey. I'm like, I couldn't possibly go to Bali. I couldn't possibly afford that. Oh my God, that's so far. But Bali, yes. I wanna
Right?
go, like, it is a dr like, what a dream. Okay, how can I make this happen? And that's when, like, the universe kind of aligned everything, like, I remember looking up flights, my and, like, okay, yes, mind you, this was 2019, but $600 round trip to Bali.
Right?
I'm like, "Okay."
These limiting beliefs that say we can't do it. I was just talking to someone yesterday who said, "Oh, yeah, I've never even been on a plane." It's like, "Oh." They're like, "Yeah, it's too scary." I was like, "Wait a minute, you just said you've never been on one. So how do you know it's scary?" And
Right.
what if your destination was Paris? And they said, "Oh, no, that's like a 15-hour flight and it costs thousands of dollars." I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's 6 hours, and here, let me look it up right now on my phone. I'm like, "Oh, look at that. $432 round trip." And since you've never been on a plane before, you probably don't mind flying economy with carry-on. So, it will actually be $432. And his mind was blown. I was like, Wow, what else are you telling yourself that you can't do that is completely out of reach?" But your initial emotional response to it was, "Ooh, that's fun." And then, of course, it gets blindsided by, "You could never do that. That's too far. That's too expensive. That's,"
To this, to that. Right.
yeah,
"Oh, I shouldn't do this." Like, we
right.
shade all over
Irresponsible.
ourselves and
Hmm.
like, "Oh, I shouldn't do this," or yeah, exactly. It's never the way that we think it is, right? So it's really about just, I think, finding this inner trust within yourself, this inner strength or resilience, whatever you want to call it, that is like, no, I need to step outside of my comfort zone. And actually, my like, that's why a lot of times I feel like so many times people stay in their comfort zone because it's comfortable.
But it's actually not. So that's another thing, like life trying to knock us down or whatever thing that
Yeah.
we just debunked earlier. The comfort, quote unquote, comfort zone is so uncomfortable. It's
Mm.
so uncomfortable. It is an unlived life. So for my divorce journey, I sat in the question of my marriage for about 9 months, and I that circle was very tight of people that knew I was sitting in that question. My ex-husband was not included in that circle. And that's really where I did my grieving. It's where I did my exploration. It's where I felt so connected to my inner knowing and to God, and which is the same thing, I think, and to those practices. And when I said it out loud and took the action because I had already solidified that alignment, then the information was new to my ex husband. So he had his reactions to that that didn't phase me as much as they would have if I said it, 10 minutes after I had the idea. If I said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And then he had his outburst, then I would have crumbled or done what I had been doing, fawn. I would have fawned, and then it would have stayed the same way. So I think there's this recalibration as we are exercising these muscles and these practices to get to a new skill level
Mm.
so that we can see, this thing I keep calling my comfort zone is very uncomfortable. When people would say, after I told him, then I obviously told more people this is what was happening, like, "Oh my gosh, Are you okay? This is so hard. And I'm like, it is so much easier than living an unlived life. Like the unknown, what am I going to do financially to support myself? How am I going to keep this house that I want? How am I going to have this life that I want without a man with a corporate job? It's like, well, those would be scary questions if that guy was my source, but he's not my source. God is my source. And this hard is the right kind of hard. It wasn't even hard, it was unfamiliar and uncomfortable, but 1,000 times more comfortable than living in a loveless marriage and just watching the days go by, waiting in silence, hoping for the best.
Exactly. I think that's the worst thing that we can do for ourselves is just like sit and hope for the best, right? Just like do nothing about our situation and then just
Right.
continuously like hope that things will change without us actually taking the action to
Yes.
make a change.
The inspired action, which of course only happens with alignment and presence because the action isn't prescribed. The only action you can read in a book is what somebody else's journey was, and
Mhm.
it can inspire you to put yourself in an environment where you can hear your own intuition and follow your own roadmap, and then write your own book and inspire the next person.
Exactly. I truly trust that like my book will find the right people. I want it to find all the people. I truly people ask me like, what's your goal or what's your dream with the book? I'm like, I want to be rich and famous.
Yes, of course, because we can, good people with money do good things.
Exactly. And I want it to be a movie. That's like a huge dream of mine as well.
Amazing. I love it. Say more.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that I think it'd be very entertaining. But yeah, I think movie is definitely next on my list. I mean, as far as just nitty-gritty, I obviously want to record the audiobook, but it is available on all other formats, Kindle, hardcover, paperback. But yeah, I think a movie would be so fun.
Are you going to play you or who's going to play you?
I I asked some people, I'm like, who do you think would play me? And so I want to ask you, Wendy, if you had an idea of who could possibly play me. But it's so funny. I had a girlfriend read the book and message me back saying, like, it was a fun read. And she's like, not me saying fun about your trauma, but like, it was.
Right. Entertaining, as you said. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
and that's because you're a great storyteller.
Thank
That's
you.
what makes hard things in other people's experience palatable.
Mm-hmm.
There's this level of shock and awe that's like, oh my gosh, I have to read the next chapter. I must know how this ends. I obviously can't sleep now, but there's still something of triumph. It's not that we want to watch other people suffer. It's we know that that's just the beginning of the movie or the beginning of the book. And then we get to see what tools they used and how we can implement those too.
Absolutely. And I do leave it on a cliffhanger.
You're so mean. Why do you do that?
I just have to open it up for book number two.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Well, thankfully, we know you survived because you're here.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And life is still lifing. And so book number two will be a work in progress, but that's definitely another goal on my list. But yes, I want to ask you, who do you think would be somebody that you could see playing me in a movie?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. And it's embarrassing because I am so far removed from pop culture I mean, because you're young. So I only know actresses that are old. And I did just watch Wild on the plane, and Reese Witherspoon can play anybody. So I'm going to say Reese because she's someone I know and she's fabulous. And I love that she has her own, well, she just sold her production company, but I love that she just created her own production company because she's not available to ask permission. And I like that about her. She sounds like me.
Love her. I really do. She's such an amazing, like, just, yes, inspiring woman, like production company, publishing company.
Right.
Like,
And she
yeah.
could play a 16-year-old or 60. Well, she probably can't play a 60-year-old, but she's closer to 60 than 16. So she's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have loved this conversation. I can't wait to have you back. You don't have to wait for book number two, but definitely with book number two. But please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get their hands on the book, and all the good things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Wendy. And the book can be found on Amazon. You do have to look it up, what in the actual like FCK without no asterisk, just FCK. Life's a Hot Mess, How to Find Gratitude Anyways. It is linked in my Instagram bio. So on Instagram, I'm Rachel.Gitlevich. You can find me on LinkedIn or my website, rayofconsciousness.com. So thank you again. I can't wait to be back. It's been so fun to chat with you today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.